Okay. Hey, everybody. Are we on? Oh, I got 24 minutes before it shuts off on me. Hi there. Leslie Bilodeau Plazic, also known as Zazoo Plazz. Here for my Sunday report. It is April 16th, 2023. I'm trying to get it so that it hits my face on both sides, but I can't. So one side's always going to be in the dark. Oh, I got some friends here. I got some frogs. I got my little tree here. See the leaves? See? It's really coming along. I got everybody finally went out. Well, my youngest son is still in the house. But it's like, I tried to get, it took me so long. I had to get all this. I wanted to get a battery pack. Somebody took it to school. Somebody took one here, one there. I'm like, really? So I had to fiddle with my phone. This is a typical Gen X thing, okay? We are very good at hacking things. I got like 3 different spots in the woods until I finally kind of found one where I, sort of, and look, we're still hacking stuff. That might work better, okay? I want to show you how the Gen X mind works. Well, mine anyway. This is very much what we do. Like, okay, that didn't work. But the guys came home. It was my youngest son's 20th birthday on April 13th. So we no longer have a teenager in the house. We got a 20-year-old and we got a 22-year-old. Well, not in the house. He's at school. He's in college, and the other one has his own place. And what a thing! And my husband came home. He's staying at his late mother's house because she just passed away. So he's like mowing the lawn, and he's like, I gotta do the taxes. So he's mowing the lawn, thinking about the taxes and thinking about, we got the kid outside. He just bought himself a Miata, 1996 blue Miata. It's very cool. So for his birthday, I got him, they had on Amazon these socks with little blue Miatas. He's like, ooh, wow, where'd you get these? He's like, very specific. Well, that's kind of my thing, I pride myself on finding perfect gifts for people. And then I got him a t-shirt. It says, it's got like trees, because he's the forestry major. It's got like trees and sky, black shirt. It says, may the forest be with you. So that was kind of cool. Oh man, I hate coming out in the woods. This time of year, it's like creepy, crawly, buggy things. I'm standing in a very clear area here, but I just feel all the little creepy, crawly things. Little crawling things start coming in the house, little ants and things. Yeah, so we're headed into my 8th house, which is, all the forbidden things that you don't talk about in polite company. Like, money and all those hidden subjects that they, make movies about. I think it's taxes. Well, it's all about this time of year. The 8th house. Look it up. Yeah. I think it's like death, sex, and taxes, and other people's money. It's like, oh, creepy. And this is humor. So I'm thinking, every year around Mother's Day, the sun's in my 8th house. And that's where my horror and my best stories come from. Taurus is in my 8th house. So Taurus is, the bull. It's all about, it's a fixed earth sign. It doesn't get heavier than Taurus. If you want to know Taurus, it's like, I found a great e-card for my dad. And it's this, like, cow. And he's mowing the lawn with a sheep. And it's like happy birthday to you. And the sheep is eating all the grass, and it's making the happy birthday letters, you know. So anyway, uh, yeah. So, and the Boston Marathon is tomorrow, so I want to give a shout out to all the runners who are eating their pasta tonight, getting up at the crack of dawn to go run 20, what was it again? 26.2 miles? Because I've done a bunch of half marathons and a ton of like 5Ks and stuff like that. So I appreciate what goes into training. I mean, I've never done the Boston. I've almost done the Hartford. I haven't. I, you know, I lack the patience, or at least at this time in my life. I had friends who ran it, but I think it would take like a good friend, like I used to have my running buddy. I call her Millie in the book. She's passed on to the other side, you know. But I would either need a really good running buddy or a really good cause that people were paying me for to run a whole marathon. Because just to run it, like, you know, people have these bucket lists. I don't have a bucket list. If I want to go do something, I just do it. So, anyway, and it would have to be a really good cause that I'm running for. Otherwise, you know, so when I get on the treadmill though, what gets me going are songs, you know, like 80s and 90s songs and some 70s songs. So that's what today's song kept popping up. And I said, oh, it's finally perfect because, you know, and I go to the gospel readings because I have a Catholic background. You know, I don't take them literally. It feeds the part of me that's still Catholic on some level. I don't know. But it feeds also my future self who's evolving in terms of my beliefs and my values, and I'm keeping an open mind. So last week, you know, he talked about unbelievable and doubting Thomas and all that. This is the reading. But they're talking about the apostles, you know, after Jesus rises and everything on Easter. They're living, eating, and working together, right? They have things in common. So this is kind of like the future, I think, that we're headed into. People finding themselves, you know, in groups of, even if it's, you know, online, groups of similar people with similar beliefs, similar life views, similar hopes and dreams and feelings, you know? Because, you know, sometimes I'll find myself with my family and struggling to be under, you know, to find the words to, you know, reach where they are. And it's really becoming, sometimes it's really a stretch, you know, and it exhausts the heck out of me. So I'm like, well, you know, I love my family, but when I'm with, say, you know, when I'm trying to explain to my husband some funny thing that the Gen X guy on Facebook, you know, is talking about, I'll play him the video and he'll just sit there. You know, he doesn't get it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny, right? All these people. Like the question, one of the questions, Jono, shout out, Gen X, John, I don't know how he pronounces it, but these guy doing reels about Gen X. So I want to say how much I enjoy those reels that he's putting out there, and so I'm connected, you know, with so many people online about this particular thing. He was talking about radio stations, how we grew up, you know, listening in our areas where we were in the country to particular DJs and things. And I realized, oh my God, that was really a central part of my life. I mean, in the book, Zazoo Plazz, I talk about Bob Steele, who was, you know, our morning AM DJ that, you know, my parents and I would listen to. You know, he'd have the joke of the day. You know, he was an older guy, but, you know, everybody knew Bob Steele. He was, you know, he was really the first, you know, in Hartford. He paved the way for DJs like Gary Craig and all those to come on the FM station. But when I was a little kid, if you wanted to know if, you know, there was a snow day and you had school, you listened to Bob Steele. because they would have it, and then you'd have to listen to all. If you lived in, say, Windsor or Windsor Locks, like my husband, you have to wait till you get to the bottom of the list. I was in East Hartford, so with me it was quick. And then later Manchester, which was in the middle. But the thing was that we all were united by, you know, all these people come out of the woodwork and like, oh, I'm in North Carolina now, but I grew up in Connecticut, and I remember, listening to 96.5 or this or that station. And I realized how important that was to me. So even the communities that we find ourselves in, we despite all of our different paths and our different, wherever in the country, we're united by the times we grew up in before Spotify, before all the digital, stuff, where everybody would listen to the same radio station, and later in the 80s, after I graduated college, in the early 90s, you'd be driving to work, and everybody would say, oh yeah, did you hear that, joke or that, whatever, routine. They do bits, and it would get you over that hump of getting to work, getting to school, or getting to work, or, that joke, that little, uplifting banter in the morning would just jumpstart your brain, get you kind of outwardly focused, but these are different times, and I think, but we need to replace that with something. It's great to reminisce, right? But what do we do with these newfound friends? How can we take this enthusiasm for our mutual, memories and take it? Where are we going with it? So this was kind of what the early apostles after Jesus took off, Jesus came to wake people up and say, okay, listen, this is the way you got to go, right? So, and then he was guiding them in the early days, right? They had trials. It says that awe came upon them, A-W-E, awe. Oh. They ate meals in exultation and sincerity of heart. See? Oh, there's a plane. In other words, instead of, when you're, like, as my boys became teenagers and adults, they got the phones, right? Maybe you can relate to this. I stayed up till 3 a.m. making my mom's French-Canadian salmon pies that I would make every year around Easter. I put it off a week this year because my mother-in-law died and we've had, a lot going on. So I made the pies, right? My oldest son, he's like, He's like, it's got chunks of salmon in it. I don't like the chunks. I'm like, okay, fine. I always ate these growing up. My mom, my aunt, my grandmother to make the salmon pies. Because in Quebec, where our relatives, my ancestors come from, they had the meat pie and the salmon pie. They put whatever they could find and they stuck it in a pie shell with mashed potatoes of some kind of potato. Mashed potatoes, usually, but sometimes it was like the porte-chinois, which is, like chunks of potatoes. Some people make it with mash, some people make it the way my mom did with chunks. Anyway, but there's usually some kind of potato with some kind of onion involved with French-Canadian cooking. And this, there's a lot of fish up there, so they threw some salmon in there, put a pie crust on it. And then, when I was growing up, my mother figured out how to she eventually would use the mix for the pie crust, or my grandmother would just throw them in the oven. They'd be burnt or they'd be whatever, but they were made with love, so they always tasted good. They might not have looked the same from year to year, but but I got them pretty good for 2 in the morning. But the thing is that I only have one of those little pie crust protectors with the the aluminum ones, so I had to stand by the oven and every 5 minutes switch the pie little circle, aluminum circle over to the other pie and back and forth. And then my husband said to me, oh, you should have told me. He says, my mother's got 5 at her house. Like, okay. Say, thanks, Mom P. I'm getting an inheritance from her beyond, from beyond. She's giving me her pie protectors. Now, it must be said, he claimed, he says she made them when he was growing up. She made pies. But I don't remember my mother-in-law making a pie while I've been married to my husband, and that's just about 28 years. My mother would make pies, all pie. My mother was all about the pie. She'd bring chocolate cream. She'd bring lemon meringue to the rescue when my lemon meringue pies turned out terrible. My granny Bilodeau, lived to 103 almost. She was the queen of the lemon meringue pie. Now, my favorite pies, when I went to Florida, I had to have key lime because I love key lime. I love lemon meringue and, spring, summer. The winter, it's the meat pies. You got to have cherry cream pie for Christmas with the almond extract or the little almond flavor. So therefore, I could talk all day about pie, and not 3.14 or whatever. My engineer husband and my son, they're the math tutor professor. They could, they know the pi, pi, the mathematical equation, and I learned that in school too. But think about it. It's the circle, right? Right? Pi is the circle. And you can look at the astrological chart like a big pie. And pizza, okay? So my dog, right? My whole Zazoo Plazz thing is the dog. I'll let you read the book. But it has something to do with my dog and pizza. She steals the punchline. Anyway, so I'm all about pie. So I'm running. Okay, see, I told you I'd come back. So I'm running, and this song keeps coming up. It's Boston, right? And it's perfect because the Boston Marathon is tomorrow. So Boston, Peace of Mind. It's a classic rock radio song. It was there was More Than a Feeling, and then Peace of Mind. So when I was growing up, late 70s, I was in middle school, and all the boomers would be like, with the long hair bands and the bell bottom jeans and stuff, maybe rocking out to this song. So, but for me, I went to school in Boston, so it's cool. And I have one little story. It's something that's been weighing on me for years. And I'm going to get it out of here. Oh, it was released. Okay, Peace of Mind was released April of '77. So I was. That was the year I turned 12, and the guy who wrote it was Tom Schultz, the founder, lead guitarist, and songwriter. Tom ties in with Thomas, Doubting Thomas, the one who, wasn't there and didn't believe that Jesus actually rose because he didn't, put his hand in the pierce marks and all that. So, all right. So, let's see. It was on 1976 Boston album, and it got up to number 38 in the Billboard Hot 100 for 1977. So, those of you who were around back then, growing up, kids, and apparently, so he wrote this song. He was working at Polaroid Corp. Polaroid, near Boston, right? It's Route 128. They have all the tech companies. My cousin lives up there, near Boston. So, shout out to him if he's listening. So, he was working with these people, and they were, and these were baby boomers, right? These people he was working with. And this are baby boomers and my dad's generation, probably, because I was just a kid. I was just 11 years old. So I was thinking this was my dad's generation, and, the older boomers would have been maybe around 30 at the time, maybe around 30. Yes, late 40s. Yeah. So anyway, he wasn't interested in climbing the corporate ladder. He just couldn't get himself to, be motivated by the competition. It's like me running a marathon. It's like, I just, I'm going to expend the energy, but I'm not going to enjoy it. What's the point? Is it going to be worth it when I get there? What am I going to get? So he says, the mundane world. You get your degree, you start working, and you're not quite happy, but you want to run, but you keep on staying. You can't decide what you should be. How many people are in this, and I was too. And I'm, kind of still trying to decide what I should be. But the thing, what he was saying is go beyond that, go strive for a world beyond competition where, you're with like-minded people, like in a band or something. Not that everybody's going to be in a band like Boston, but find the deeper meaning, search for it, and you will find it. I'm still trying to figure that out. But if you can imagine it, it's not that you find it, but that you're going to create it, right? If that makes any sense. In other words, when I used to run marathons, I'd be like, I'd envision myself crossing the finish line, and it really wouldn't matter, who I beat or what time it was, but I would envision myself crossing the line with a smile on my face, and every single time it worked. That's my running strategy. Of course I would train, of course I would eat right, rest, all the stuff. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is your mindset and what you put out for yourself to strive toward. Have the goal, right? So, and then I ran in exaltation, right? Whatever you're doing, do it with a smile on your face, right? And that other people will see you and you will lift them up. So, yeah, so the thing I wanted to get off my chest was I had, it was Valentine's Day, and I had this boyfriend that we had been going, I don't know, it was a year or so, a year, maybe two, and we had both gone to school in Boston, and I was trying to figure out what to get him for Valentine's Day, and I think I bought him. I think my mom even said, "Well, why didn't you get him because we had cassettes back then. It was mid '80s, like '85 or '86. No, it had to be '86 or early '87." And I said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I got him even though we hadn't really shared that music together. I mean, we did, but we didn't. He would come see me. It was my junior year. He'd come see me because he was at another college in Boston where he had to take a T, cross town and come visit me in my dorm with my roommate. So I got him a Boston CD, a cassette, and some, I don't know, something else, and a card. And he opens it and he's like, oh, it's like, he's like, I hate Boston. So I'm like, okay. And then he ended up getting me some stuff. It was like the day after Valentine's Day. He went, and I got the feeling maybe he got everything on half price. But anyway, it was a very nice gesture, and I'm very thankful. But I always wondered, why did he hate Boston so much? Well, anyway, I see I'm running out of time. So, have a great week. I'll see you next week. And, yeah, I hope you have a peaceful week. Peace of mind. Oh, that's the whole point. I forgot to say. I always thought it said, all I want is to have a piece of pie. So I'm going to go have a piece of my salmon pie. And maybe some of that ice cream cake from the kid's birthday. And I'll talk to you next week.